Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. For the homework, I was like working on the homework and I left it as a draft. So I'll just publish it right now and then you guys can finish it for this class.
So is it homework for this class?
Yeah, it'll be homework for this class.
Okay. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for the paperless debate installation, so I tried installing it. It downloads it. It doesn't download Microsoft Word. That the for Mac. It it downloads it as a separate, like as the add-ins only, not for the installation. Not it doesn't
Oh,
actually
okay. Yeah,
download
I think
Microsoft
I
Word.
think it downloads as verbatim and then when you open a document, it opens in Microsoft Word maybe. Is that how it is for you?
So like it, you have to I, I tried. It doesn't add. It downloads it as an add-in, so only
Mm-hmm.
if you have Microsoft Word, you can use it.
Oh wait, I didn't have Microsoft
But
Word in it and huh.
and then I downloaded Microsoft Word, and
Yeah.
then I downloaded Word so it made a separate document,
Uh-huh. Yeah, it makes a separate
and
document.
then
So when you click verbatim,
yeah,
it'll open up a document with like the add-ins, but it'll open up a Microsoft
yeah.
Word.
But then it makes me it says I have to have a subscription to actually edit it.
Okay, hold on. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see this?
Yeah.
So this is what I got. Like down here, it says verbatim, and that's what I downloaded from Paperless Debate. So once you click that, right, it creates a new document like this, whatever, like it says, document 5 compatibility mode, and then it goes add-ins here. That's all I have. And like
So
I
how
never
did you
bought.
get the how did you get the Microsoft Word app?
I can check. Let's see. I I I definitely did not have Microsoft Word. Like I definitely didn't have it, or like it wasn't in my main bar when I got my laptop. But once I downloaded this verbatim and I opened up a file, it opened it up in Microsoft Word. Does it not do that for you?
No, for me, when I put them in the when I put I have a Mac too,
Yeah.
but an older version. So if I put it in the bar and I
Yeah.
click it once, it just bounces once and then nothing happens.
Nothing happens. Okay.
So I downloaded Microsoft Word from the App Store and
See,
I
it
didn't
includes the
install
main
and
Word
I didn't
template. It includes the main Word template. If you look at my screen, at least that's what it has
yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah, I saw it.
website. I think for me it was a little tricky because the first time it didn't work, and then the second time it worked. So, okay, I'll ask a friend who I think knows how to do it. Give me a second.
Let me try to download it again. So should it also automatically install Microsoft Word?
I don't know about install. I think hold on, let me check.
Yeah, I downloaded the verbatim only and I clicked it. I put
Since
them
I
in
have a
my
365 subscription, but I definitely don't. I don't think so.
uh do you are you using like a school account?
Oh, yeah, I'm using a school account. Maybe it does.
Yeah, I think it includes.
Okay.
In like 6th grade, I used to go to Introduction to Office Productivity, and then it gave me Microsoft 365 for free.
Okay, maybe it is that. Yeah, I'm not very sure. But like I have the application on my laptop, so maybe no. Okay, I remember this. So I signed in with a different account, and I don't know how. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to remember what I did.
Did you sign in like with a different account that doesn't have 365?
Yeah, and it still worked, is what I remember. But then I wanted to save everything
So
on my school account, so I signed into that.
did you download it separately, like Word?
No, I didn't. I didn't download Word separately. It gave me like a 2014 version of Word, and then I went
Oh,
and updated it through like Microsoft on their website has like the update packages.
yeah. I don't know. It's
So
not
like
working
this,
for me.
my
I just
Microsoft
clicked
Word
it.
doesn't manually like even if you set it to automatic updates, it doesn't update. I'm pretty sure it's not like an actual version of Microsoft Word, or like at least like
Yeah,
the one from Microsoft.
I'm clicking it. Nothing's happening.
Wait, do you want to share your screen real quick?
1 sec. Okay, let me join on a Mac because I'm on my iPad right now. 1 second.
When I try to do it, my thing doesn't even get that far. When I click download, it downloads, but then when I try to open it or move it around, it just says you can't move it. It's unknown creator. And then there's also like this tutorial, there's 6 steps. It says how to download. You need 666 megabytes.
Yeah.
And then after that, when you do it, it says there's an error and it doesn't work.
Okay, I think it might flag it as like a virus. Like it says it like I got a virus alert when I try to install it, but
Yeah, should I share my screen?
yeah, go ahead.
It just host disabled.
Oh, it's just okay. Okay, I changed it. Go ahead.
I'm running on Big Sur, the old
Okay.
version.
Um,
So might be a reason.
yeah,
So here, if I click it,
yeah, yeah.
I click it, it just bounces once and nothing happens.
Huh. Wait, could you just search up Microsoft Word? Like just search up the application if you have it or not.
An App Store?
No,
Or
no,
just Google?
just like search up in the corner. Like there should be spotlight search. Like
Oh, I don't have it done. Oh, like that? Okay, wait.
yeah, like that. Yeah. Just try searching on Microsoft Word. For me, it just opened. I never downloaded. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's like it's because I have an old version or
Maybe I'm not really sure because I have a newer laptop now. So I mean I didn't have it on my old laptop. So and I had like a 2013 MacBook Pro. So that's what I remember.
that was
So
2014. Did it work
okay.
on your old?
No, it didn't work on my old one. But I think I
Yeah,
might have been on something like older than Big Sur or like probably Big Sur.
yeah. So I think that's the problem.
Because
Wait, can
I
I
don't
share?
think they made this until like 2015 or like 2014-ish.
Wait, can I share my screen to show you what's happening? Because I'm so
Yeah, sure,
confused.
go ahead.
I mean, 2015, they're still running on Big Sur, so
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, let's
Okay. So, oh god.
that's a good card.
And then so I installed it, right? And then I go here. And then when I click this, it just tells me the steps. Okay, then I do this. Right, it does this, and then it says installation
Okay.
failed. And then after that, it just doesn't do anything. And then it also tells I can't move it to trash.
Like,
So
what
I
move it to the trash?
can do everything. I can like install it and everything, but then when
Yeah.
I try to open it, not what happens. It
Okay.
like glitches.
For me, I also got that failure once, I remember, but I just messaged one of my friends who's like really good at like installing this. Or like he's the one who installed it for me. So I'll get to him and then get back because I'm pretty sure like I'm very confident that this is like not a real version of like verbatim, or I think it's like a version of a verbatim, but not like of Microsoft Word. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I haven't done it in a while. It's been like probably over like a year and a half since I had it installed. So I'll see if I can make instructions for you guys like to like install it, I guess. But for the homework, I'm gonna post the homework like right now. I saved it as a draft and I didn't finish the homework assignment. But once I post the homework, you guys can submit whatever you guys had or like whatever you guys want to do. That makes sense. Just give me a second. I'm gonna close my door. We
Should I
can,
submit like the Biden thing?
huh?
Should I submit the Biden thing?
Yeah, yeah, just submit the yeah, like whatever you made on the Google Docs. Just
Okay.
submit that. Yuvika, do you have a question?
Yeah. So with the homework you're going to send, are we supposed to like edit that homework to make it into what we're supposed to send to you?
I'm gonna see like the homework assignment is just like the card cutting activity I talked about last class. And then I can post it right now, I guess.
What if you didn't finish the like Iran one?
No, that's fine. That was like 2 classes ago. That's fine. Like I'm gonna post like a different topic and then or like an easy topic and like a little bit more complicated topic, and you guys can choose whichever one you'd want. I can do that after class if you guys like. We can go ahead and get started with the class right now. All right. So let me share the Google slide. All right, can everyone see this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so today we're going to be going over like debate jargon or like vocabulary. So these are words you kind of have to know or else you'll kind of be lost during a debate. Like sometimes like your opponent will say like a word or two that if you don't understand, you kind of have like no defense against. So we're just like first going to go into like why is debate like knowing debate jargon important. So and first of all, it enhances like communication, your understanding and like participation in the debates because if you like know what the opponent is saying like in these technical terms, then you have like the technical terms in order to like rebut their case and like do all that type of thing. So like how like a card and block are like basically the same thing, but they're a little different. You can like it's those type of words that you really need to kind of like grow as a debater. So I'm just gonna introduce them today. So, like improves your critical thinking skills and like generally your effective persuasion towards like the judge, because the more knowledgeable you sound or like seem to be, the judge is going to like perceive that and kind of like understand that you're a debater, and then you're going to like as long as you show that you're professional and you know what you're doing, it always gives you an edge over your opponent if they don't do that. So you should always know like proper debate jargon and like vocabulary. So I mean, it's just generally necessary to like navigate and excel in like various academic, professional, and personal contexts, because the more like vocabulary that relates to argumentation and like things along those lines, even in like the real world, that like effectively like translates into something that you can convey towards maybe your like future boss or like your future employees. Like you need to kind of like have that professionality and like have that like all the good things you get from debate, such as critical thinking. So these are some debate terms. So ad hominem is generally just like an argument attacking the person making the argument rather than like addressing the substance of their claims. This is something you should stay away from. And if your like opponent claims like this, then you should always try to like say, I'm not attacking you, I'm not attacking like, your person, I'm attacking, the substance of your claims. Like, this is more like, kind of like in the higher levels of circuit debate, this is something that they say in order to, kind of like drop the debater, which we'll get later. So dropping the debater generally means like, okay, the debater has said something about me, judge, you should like just make them loose around right now because they said something about me, et cetera, et cetera. They're being abusive, like, all their arguments are like really, really wild arguments, and there's no way I can like refute the arguments. So my opponent should lose because of this, and this reason. Like, you always have to make that reasoning, but that's something like ad hominem is just generally an argument attacking the person rather than like making an argument and using like logic to address the substance of someone's claims. Now, a straw man is generally like what you should do in a debate. So like certain times, if you can't refute an argument or you don't have the proper block against it, you should kind of straw man the argument for your judge. Like, you should just tell the judge like, okay, they're like misrepresenting this piece of information and like cross over this block, and then we can show that this kind of like refutes whatever they're saying. Like, that's how you have to make that kind of like logic. So you should either like exaggerate an opponent's argument, like, or like kind of like go along their lines, but say like this isn't true. But like if they're misrepresenting their argument, like, this happens really often, and like it goes under judges like nose. Like, this technically isn't like very like, I want to say like like you shouldn't do this very often, but like if you're really like backed into a corner and you do this, like your opponent can obviously call you out on it. But this is something that happens a lot in debate. Like, you can always call out, okay, my opponent is straw manning my argument. They're misrepresenting it, they're exaggerating it, and they're just making it easier to refute for themselves. But then you can say, okay, this is not the truth of my argument. Like, that's always you should do. It's a term that kind of like you should always claim when you feel like you're being treated unfairly by your opponent's argument, saying like if you said like Trump, I don't know, like any president reduced taxes, you can, and then your opponent says, oh, they only reduce taxes for the rich, like rich people, and this doesn't really help them. They're like not a good president or whatever. If it's like a topic relating to that, you can always say they're trying to strawman my arguments and kind of like make that as a refutation to like back up your evidence. So a red herring is just basically like introducing irrelevant or unrelated information or arguments to distract from the main point of the debate. I mean, this happens less often because people want to stay like on the kind of topic of the debate in order to win the debate. But sometimes like if people or certain debaters are like kind of like, I guess, like on the edge of like losing debate, they'll try to introduce like irrelevant information in the later speeches, like maybe a certain example or a certain like unrelated, somewhat related but unrelated information to kind of take away from your arguments or like whatever you're conveying. So you can always call out like they're trying to herring this debate. You should obviously see that like our side is winning, therefore you should vote for this side. Like, that's something you should definitely do. A slippery slope is generally an argument like suggesting that a small or incremental change can inevitably lead to like significant or undesirable consequences. So like one like an impact that is kind of like relating to the slippery slope type vocabulary is saying that like the world is going to end in nuclear blast. Like, there's certain arguments where that's definitely possible, where there's like war between different countries over certain resources. But like most of the time saying that like mutually assured nuclear destruction is going to happen is like not very like probable. And you should always like, instead of saying slippery slope, you should say that's simply improbable and then prove why it's improbable. So when you do that, it's like good for your, I guess, like argument, because it kind of shows the credibility of your argument compared to theirs. And if anyone ever resorts to that, you can always like resort to this type of argument. So what a line by line is, which is the fifth term, is a method of refutation where arguments are addressed like one directly like after another. And you basically read line by line off your block. So while this is like pretty effective, you can like make through a lot of blocks and like make through a lot of kind of like refutations to their points. One thing a judge may not like, depending on who the judge is that like you're not having a lot of creativity in like creating your own arguments and your own logic. And usually line by line is valued less than like a good like on the spot refutation. So like obviously most of the time, if you're like a beginner and you have like good blocks and your opponent's points fall directly into your refutations, just line by line the refutations. And if you want, add like a small summary, like add something that you created and like kind of like you thought of on the spot. Like, that's always good. Like maybe an analogy, maybe like a small, like, I guess like, I don't know, just maybe a small line that kind of like encompasses what they're debating versus what you're debating and why you should win. Like, always try to like promote that fact. So clash points are like key areas of disagreement or like contention between the affirmative and negative. Sometimes, and I say this happens maybe like 20% of the time or like less than that, is where like your first contention and your opponent's like first contention will clash a lot. Like they're saying completely different things. There's a lot of like clashing points there. But then your second contention and their second contention don't clash at all. It's like they don't even like disagree with each other. Like some parts they like agree and some parts they disagree. There's not a lot of like clashing there between the arguments. So obviously you should like kind of address the first clashing parts of your argument, like in the first contention, and then move on to the second contention argument. So the judges love to see like lots of clash, and they want to see like who can kind of like after this clash, who has better logic, who's gonna like, like think more critically and kind of express their points in a better way. So that's what you need to convey through the clash points. Obviously address those first and then move on to maybe their second contention, etc. Like sometimes the debate will just get wrapped up in the first contention, but try to like just like say, okay, my opponent didn't even refute my second contention, so all those impacts, everything I said there continues through. Like that's something you should say. Okay, so now let's have some more debate terms. So in your cards, a warrant is the reasoning, or yeah, if iPhone, you can ask a question.
So I missed like a few minutes, so
Mhm.
wait, what were we doing?
So we were just going over some like debate terms. So I'll post this on the classroom so you can go ahead and see them there. But we're just talking about like generally like how to refute arguments if your opponent's like straw manning your argument, which is misrepresenting or exaggerating your argument. Sorry. And then like line by line, slippery slope arguments, clash points. I was just generally talking about like each of the terms and how they're kind of like applied in the debate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
No problem. So a warrant is generally the reasoning or justification that connects the evidence to the argument being made. So like if you have a card about like the previous topic I mentioned in the previous class, if anyone remembers this, about like China prioritizing environmental protection over economic growth, right? You can always make the reasoning and justifications like within like your evidence to a certain argument. Like that's basically your logic. Like the warrant is your logic. And then within the warrant, you have like, if you have multiple warrants, that's called your link chain. So you're linking one thing to another and you're kind of creating like a cohesive argument. So that's what you want to do with your warrants. It's basically your logic and reasoning and justifications for what you're trying to argue. Your impact is the significance or consequences of any argument or position. So you want to look at like, okay, because the affirmative supports this, this is going to happen. So that's, if you're the affirmative, that's your impact. So you're going to impact the people, you're going to impact the environment, whatever that has like a consequence on something, etc. So on your position, you want to always like push your impacts as far out as you can to make them as large as possible. And then there's a couple of ways you weigh impact. So you can weigh impact. So weighing is basically like looking at your opponent's impacts and yours and kind of like showing the judge which one has more weight in the scenario. So you can talk about like magnitude, probability, time frame. Those are a lot of big main ones. So you can say the probability of my opponent's impacts really happening are very low, so you should prioritize our impacts. Or you could say like our impacts are larger, so therefore you should support our case. And then you can say like time frame, this will take years to happen, we don't have years, so you should support ours because we do it in a shorter amount of time and it's like a more realistic amount of time. So that's what your impact is. And as we've talked about, crossfire is just like a period of direct questioning and answering between members of the opposing team or whatever. And a drop is a really main point. So a lot of times debaters will just say like, oh, they dropped this argument. So dropping an argument means you just like didn't like refute it at all. Yeah, I'll post the slides and recording on the Google Classroom. But dropping an argument is something you shouldn't do. Like always try to refute the argument before you get back to your case or you want to do anything else. So don't ever like ignore or like fail to respond to an argument unless it's like completely irrelevant, but make sure you point out that it's like completely irrelevant or something like that. Harshika, do you have a question?
Oh no, I forgot to put my hand down.
Okay, no problem. So like you can always like don't drop arguments and like they basically result in concessions at that point, and you don't want that to happen at the end, like end parts of the debate where they say, okay, you drop this, so this completely continues throughout the debate. All my impacts continue throughout the debate. And like if they refuted all of your offense or like whatever you're saying in your case, then you're basically screwed at that point. So always try to not drop any arguments and kind of point out like, and on your flow, you can always see which arguments you responded to and which ones your opponent hasn't responded to, and always kind of point out in the final summaries and like, like those type of speeches, because that can really like solidify you as the winner of the debate, or like, solidify you as like your points go through, you win the debate. That's basically what I'm trying to say here. So a preemptive refutation is just generally like addressing and countering potential arguments or objections before they are raised by, the opposing team. So you can always say like, the affirmative's burden in the situation is not to prove that the status quo or like the current scenario is good. It's only trying to prove that the negative is like a general like harm. So like a net harm, which means like overall, when you look at the negative, it creates a harm compared to a good in the status quo. So if we're talking about like the Supreme Court topic, which was the LD topic like a couple months ago, we could say that the negative like is creating more political instability or like more political polarization, right? It's making the scenario worse. Like they may have some positive impacts, but their negative impacts like outweigh all those positive impacts, and it creates those issues. Now, that's like generally a preemptive refutation. Like if you're in like kind of like in that corner, like, and you can't really like provide any new information, like this happens in certain topics. You can just say, okay, the negative has to prove that they have a benefit rather than the affirmative, or like you can make kind of like definitions, and kind of like you should always have I forgot what they're called. They're just like I can pull it up.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
they're called
should you
prerequisite.
want,
Yeah, go ahead.
should you want to do preemptive reputation?
It depends. So on certain topics, you don't have to do it at all. Like it just depends on the topic, because some topics, like it's heavily lopsided towards either the affirmative, or like not heavily, but it's lopsided towards one side. So you always want to like give yourself the best environment and scenario like in a debate in order to win the debate. So if it's like, you should always make a preemptive, it's not a refutation necessarily, but like kind of like a preemptive like argument or like statement that says, okay, you have to do this and I have to do this. And then whoever does that better wins the debate. So like you should make it as easy as you can, especially if you're the affirmative, for like you to win the debate, if that makes sense. So if you think it's necessary, do it. If you don't think it's necessary, don't do it. It just depends on the topic.
Okay.
A tagline is a concise summary or headline for an argument or contention. Usually these are like after your entire contention. You can say like, for the people of America, we affirm to reduce political polarization. We like affirm to reduce, this, and this. So that's kind of your tagline. Or you can have like a small statement before your card that generally explains what the card is about before you go into the actual like, like evidence and whatnot. Now, topicality. Topicality is the criterion used to determine whether the affirmative team's argument is within the scope of the resolution. Yeah, Ishan, do you have a question?
Yeah, so before a debate, do you choose whether you're affirmative or negative?
So how it goes is there's a website called Tab Room. That's where all the like debate rounds are. I can go ahead and share that screen. I can open that up.
Can you post the link in the chat?
Yeah, I can put, so this is where you'll find all like basically everything that revolves around the tournaments and like signing up for the tournaments. Your coaches or like yourself, you might have to do this, but you can like register for debate tournaments through this. So they have their own like online debate format where, okay, let me put the, sorry. So it's tabroom.com. So you can just take a look through that. I put in the chat. I can also put in the Google Classroom. Let me just share my screen though.
I think you showed this to us.
Yeah. So if I want to go here, right? So like it'll randomly give me like negative, affirmative, and the negative affirmative. Like usually you're guaranteed to have like an even number unless it's like 5 rounds or something, like 5 preliminary rounds. But then after here, like in your elimination rounds, like if you make it to your elimination rounds, it'll randomly give like one person a choice. Like it'll be like, you have 5 minutes to choose whether you want to be affirmative or negative. It's like that type of thing. So like, if you start out on negative, you'll most likely end out on, affirmative because it goes negative, affirmative, negative, affirmative, negative, affirmative. But sometimes there's a possibility where you can go back to back negative, back to back affirmative. But in the end, you'll most likely, or usually, like, unless there's something wrong with like kind of how they've set up, or like there's a certain way of how they've set up the debate, like it's completely random, you should get like affirmative, negative, affirmative, negative. And these are your speaker points. If everyone can see this number, can people see this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's out of 29.5. I'm not sure. Yeah, so like here you'll get all your results and whatnot, basically, but I think it's out of either 30 or 29.5. And this is basically like your speaker point. So for example, if there's a lot of people who won like 4 out of their 6 rounds like me, and they have like issues with kind of like the bracketing. So like who gets to like buy the first round, right? So a buy is basically like you get a free pass through the first elimination round if you do well. Like usually in some tournaments, like in some invitationals, if you win all of your rounds, or if you win like 5 out of your 6 rounds, then they'll automatically give you like first elimination round free. Like you don't have to debate anyone, you just have to prepare for the second one. It's kind of like how that there's certain tournaments like that. But basically, if there's a lot of people who won 4 rounds like me here in the tournament, I believe I don't remember how many people there were in this tournament, but I think there were like a lot since it was an online tournament. So if there's a lot of people that go like 4-2, right, which is win-loss, then they'll see who has the higher speaker points. So that's why speaker points are important. So if you ever win a round, or if it's like your judge discloses that you win a round, so this is like another point I want to show. So certain tournaments, the judges will like right after the round, they'll say, okay, -1, affirmative 1, whatever. But most of the tournaments are like certain like league tournaments. If you're in California, or like I believe in Texas and Arizona, they won't like tell you who won the round until like you get the final result, which is like, I guess that's fine also, but I like to know my results. Yeah, Yuvika, do you have a question? No?
Yeah.
Oh,
So basically, what if you're given, like, what if it says that your side is negative or negative, but you think that the topic should be on affirmative?
I don't understand. What do you mean by that?
Like, if the topic, like if you think that you should agree that something should be stopped, but they assign that your side is negative, what are you supposed to?
So like in debate, like even if you agree with something, like maybe like a topic about like, whatever topic, right? You always have to prepare both sides and basically be the person who's like saying, okay, I don't agree with this. Like you should not agree with it. If you're like debate isn't about like if you agree with it or not. It's just basically how you can argue like a certain side. Like, so if I don't agree with a certain topic, right, I'm still going to like debate as if I, if I disagree with the topic. Like, it's not like, oh, okay, I agree with this. Like, it's not like that. It's just like you debate a side, like either affirmative, negative. You'll prep both sides beforehand, like in the case, unless you're in parliamentary debate, which is like on the spot. But you just prep the side, like prep a certain side. It's not like no one, like basically the algorithm doesn't care if you agree with the side or not. At the end of the day, you'll like be affirmative and negative the same amount of times. Like it's just for you to like it's just for you to get like a similar amount of times, or like the same amount of times on each side, in order to have like an opportunity to debate each side. That's about it. Like, if that makes sense. Like, it's not about if you agree with something or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, if you're like given like affirmative and you don't agree with it, then you still have to debate the affirmative, because you're trying to win the round. You're trying to show up your critical thinking, your logic, your reasoning, your points, whatever. That's what you're trying to show off to the judge, and that's how you're going to win a debate. So, Yashmin, do you have a question?
Okay, one thing, there's like numbers under the opponent thing. Is that just like the opponent's number, like generally, or like is it
So
points?
like at certain tournaments, right? They don't want you to know who the opponent is, so they just assign each person a number. Like other opponents, like I can go back here. Okay, this is right. So here, like they'll just give the name here, if that makes sense. Like
Okay, yeah.
league tournaments. So
Oh, your name is here so much.
huh?
Your name is in this thing
Yeah,
so
because this
much.
is my record. This is like all my history.
Oh, or not.
Yeah. So if I go to like Super Debate 1,
Have
right?
you won any tournaments like First place.
Yeah, this one I was first place.
Which one?
This
There's
one.
a lot of
So this one doesn't have elimination rounds. So technically, like you can win the tournament by just winning all your rounds. Like this is to get a wild card for the qualification tournament. So there's since California is super competitive, they have 3 different levels. So first you have the league tournaments. So you have 3 chances in debate in order to go 4-0, like just like win all your rounds, and then you'll get like an automatic entry to the qualification tournament. And then if you do well at the qualification tournament, then you can go to the state tournament. So like this is basically how you win a league tournament. Like the invitationals are much harder to win, but like I placed well at like invitationals. Like I can, where's Martin Luther King? Yeah, this one I won like let's say 4, like the straight 4, and then I lost the last 2. Like it's also like ranked. So like if you win 4, right, you'll also go against someone who's won 4 rounds, if that makes sense. And then I just got a buy for this one. So like since I did
So
well
it's
at
kind
this-
of like in chess tournaments.
Oh yeah, I haven't done chess tournaments, but I guess that's similar. Yeah. Yashmin, do you have a question?
No, sorry, I forgot to raise I lowered my.
So these are in-person tournaments, so they'll be at like certain high schools, and then they'll give you like the room number of the high school. You just go there, and then like the judge will already be there, and you just debate, I guess. And then for the online, okay, I can't even click my tabs.
Wait, I had another question. I forgot.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was like when you prepare for your side, affirmative or negative, will you get the side first or will you prepare first?
You'll get the sides. So like if they
Oh,
say
so
like,
yeah. I
pairing,
thought you said you
yeah.
prepare both sides and then they give you the side and then you have to just choose the one that you prepared.
No. So like beforehand, right? You'll make the case on both sides, like you'll make an affirmative case, you'll make a negative case. They'll both have their like value criterion. They'll have their points, they'll have their summary, they'll have all their blocks for each of the sides. You need to prep blocks for both sides. And then when you go there, they'll be like, okay, pairings come out at, I don't know, like usually they'll do like an hour before or like maybe 30 minutes before. They say that like they come out at like 3:30, right? And then whatever side you get, you just like pre-flow. So you write all your points on a piece of paper, and then you can like kind of create like the segments like I showed in 2 classes ago, and then you can just get ready for that debate. So also there's something called flights. If it's a really packed tournament, there's a lot of people, they'll have flights. So like you'll have flight 1, flight 2, flight 1, flight 1, flight 1. So it's basically like since they have a lack of judges, they'll try to like not like really double stack, but they'll kind of like offset a couple of rounds. So if you're flight 1, your like round will start at 4:30. But then the second person, the flight 2, but it'll still be round 1. They'll start at 5:30, if that makes sense. And then once they get all the results by, I don't know, like 6:30, right? Then they'll make the next pairing. Like this round or like this thing went pretty like deep into the night, like 9:15 p.m. But that just happens sometimes. And then this is where you can see all the I guess like all the like there's like a Texas LD tournament. It's like you can basically register here, or like you're most likely your coach. If you have a coach, they'll register for you. Does that make sense to everyone? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, give me a second. I'll go back to the screen. I'll continue the lesson. So hopefully that's a good introduction to Tab Room. If you do debate, like that'll be like basically where like all your information is for debate, like regarding the tournaments and the rounds. So yeah. All right. So we can go on to the other debate terms. So I believe we talked about topicality. So the affirmative and the negative both have to stay on the topic. So that's something you have to like make sure you're like doing. Like if you ever like ranting or like not ranting, but you're going on a really, really deep refutation, then you should make sure that you're staying on like the general like scope of the resolution. Scope is like who this is, like just the general area of the resolution, if that makes sense. Now moving on to signposting. So signposting is saying, okay, this is going to be a 7-minute first affirmative constructive speech. Like you're telling usually they're parent judges. So you should always tell the judge which, speech it is and like what your main points are, kind of like convey to the judge. So they like convey to the judge everything about your case so they understand what is going on. Yashmin, do you have a question?
So when you do speech and debate, the topics, will they be more of a newer topic so then that you won't already know some about the topic? Because like if they
they'll be new every time. So like they'll have a list of topics, and if you go on the
But when I mean new, I don't mean like, I mean like by time, like it happened recently.
they have stuff relating to that. So like right now there's a super majority in the Supreme Court where like, the affirmative, like there's
No, I
supported-
just got reminded because on my Alexa it says that there was a shooting in Fayetteville, like 2 seconds ago.
Yeah. Wait, what about that? I don't get it.
I mean, like I got reminded because like are the topics gonna be like something old topics, as in like
Oh,
something
no,
happened, like,
no,
2
no,
years
no.
ago?
Usually it's like something that like has to do with like the current scenario. So it'll be like,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
yeah. So like recently, like currently we have a super majority in the Supreme Court where it's like 6 Republican appointed judges and then there's 3 Democratic. So it's like very heavily sided to one because like basically every case that goes to the Supreme Court is kind of like siding to the conservative side, like just based off of like the pattern you can see. So, the recent topic was whether the Supreme Court justices, of the United States, like ought to be term limited. So that's basically like, currently they serve for life. And then like, it was basically an argument whether they should have like a certain term limit. So like, a preemptive refutation, like that could be like a plan. Like you could say like, the affirmative is going by this plan where like every, this amount of years, there's going to be a new Supreme Court justice. Like there's things you can do like that. That's basically what a preemptive refutation is, like refutation or like kind of like statement, if that makes sense. And usually all the topics will be relating to like current scenario. Like another topic was, should, China like prioritize environmental protection over economic growth, right? So that's very like close to like climate change and a lot of like issues that we kind of like contend with now. It'll be very like close to like generally like current like status quo topics. Status quo just meaning that like in the current like world that we're living, that's the status quo. Yash, but do you have another question or? Okay. So signposting is really important because when you have parent judges, they're going to be like not as understanding as maybe like very, very like experienced judges who are in the higher level circuit debate. Circuit debate is just like a different level of debate. And we're not really going to be going into that like kind of area of debate since this is the intro to debate, speech and debate class. So signposting is generally just like you should always say, my first contention is like, I don't know, like water shortages in China. Like that could be like your first contention, and your judge can easily write that down. Like you don't want to say like my first contention, now moving on to my first contention and not mention what it is. So then your judge that has no clue what it's about. So always like address to the judge like what your points are, like according to this and this, right? This happens. Like you should make it very easy for the judge to see and judge to listen what your arguments are, because they don't have your paper in front of you. They don't have your laptop in front of you to like kind of read through it, unless you're in the high level circuit debate or your judge asks for your case beforehand. Like certain judges will do that since they can like read along your case. It's easier for them to like judges also flow, by the way. If I didn't mention that already, they flow the debate. They see who's winning the debate, like what arguments are being made. Like they do all of that. So it's always best to like signpost, which is saying, okay, my first contention is, my second contention is, my opponent's first point, my opponent's second point, by like applying my block from the previous speech, which I like used to refute my opponent's first contention on this point. Like make it extremely easy for your judge. They'll like it. They'll see you as more professional. It'll just make your like whole debate a lot more simple, especially for the judge. And if you do a good job at that, and you do a good job at like putting your offense and defense forward in the debate round, you will win the debate. And that's always a good thing. So this is more debate terms. So a point of information, a POI, is mainly related to a parliamentary debate, which I want to say is only in California, unless like, like people from other states in this, like, I guess in the meeting, like know about parliamentary debate. So it's basically while the opponent is giving their constructive or a response speech or refutation, you can ask, you could just be like POI, and if they like say, okay, like yeah, go ahead and ask your question, right? They ask a question, you answer the question, and then you're like, you can go on. So it's just like a brief interruption during a speech where one debater can ask permission to ask a question or make a comment to the speaker, like, or comment to the judge, like a clarification to the judge, like saying, okay, we already refuted this, like something like that. I've done parley debate like a couple of times, so I don't have a lot of experience with it, but it's like it's one of the interesting parts of parliamentary debate. Like it's very interactive. As we talk about flow or flowing, it's the process of taking notes during a debate to track arguments, evidence, and refutations made by both sides. There's a lot of resources on YouTube to like look at this, so obviously look at that. And if you join debate in school, like there'll be a coach or there'll be more experienced high schoolers who know how to flow, and they can give you their like version of flow. Depending on where you're from, like I believe on the East Coast they flow a little differently. On the West Coast they flow different, like a little differently. So it just depends on where you are. Like you'll have like a different like type of flow, like pre-flow, like all that type of thing. So all that type of stuff. So just like know how to flow in general, just track arguments, like track what you need to refute and what your opponent hasn't refuted, or like, you know, all your points. So flowing is probably one of the most important parts of the debate, because if you can't track a debate, you can't win a debate. That's basically you know, how it goes. For framework, this is the overarching structures or set of rules that define how a debate should be approached and evaluated. So that's your value and value criterion. So your value criterion should be like what your criteria is in order to achieve your values. So should kind of like set your framework like to support your own case, rather than, you know, a generalized kind of like, okay, my case does support this, but, you know, my opponent's case also could support this. So try not to like ever dive into too much of the framework debate, because sometimes people love to go into the framework debate, be like, prioritize my value criterion, because we do this, this, and this, right? If you go too much into framework debate, like generally judges don't like that. Like from my experience, I've also made that mistake, and it's like not been very like nice to me, I guess. Like it's I've obviously lost around due to like focusing too much on the framework debate and not necessarily focusing on like the actual like content of the debate, if that makes sense. So the burden of proof is the responsibility of the affirmative team to prove that their position on the resolution is valid. So as I mentioned in the preemptive refutation, right, that's where you can say, oh, the affirmative does not have to do this in this scenario. We don't have to do this. Only the negative has to do this. So that's something you should like always like, you know, if you have a burden of proof, try to like, you know, fulfill it to the best of your ability, but make sure that like, if you really can't do that, like set out a statement, set out like an argument where you can say, yeah, we don't have to do that, if that makes sense. So clash is like obviously the direct disagreement or confrontation between two opposing arguments. Having a lot of clash is always good, but make sure you're coming on top of that clash. If there's a lot of clash and you're like basically losing that clash, try to focus on a different argument and try to like hammer your points into their argument and hope to win that point. That's what you should always do. An extension is expanding upon or developing an argument beyond what it has already been said in previous speeches. So you can always like cross extend like two of your different points into one larger point. You can always extend like another point you have into a larger contention. You can always do that type of thing. It's always good. It's always, you know, kind of like reaffirming your offense in that scenario. And that's something you should always do. One thing I didn't have on here is like in higher level circuit debates, there's like, you can drop a debater. So you like, you can ask a judge, oh, they attacked my person, they attacked like who I am. Instead of attacking my arguments, you can drop a debater there and then. So that just basically means like they did something that's in like, you know, kind of a blatant violation. So they should not win this round. Should just drop them, like, you know, disqualify them from the round, like that type of thing. Also, you can say things like in certain, like in this tournament, like the latest tournament I've been to, which is the national qualification tournament. There's technically a certain like a late tournament, but people were also running circuit cases, which are a lot more points. They talk a lot quicker. They're like point of information, POI, a brief interruption during a speech, like just reading off this, they'll read through this like in half the time it does, or like less than half of the time than in a regular lay round, which is the regular debate. Something that you do have to like notice is that in the certain tournaments where there's certain lay cases and there's certain like really circuit cases, which is like packed with information, there's counter plans, et cetera. Like you can say that, okay, you know, the way I won one of my rounds, my first elimination round, was saying that, okay, my opponent's being extremely abusive because they're making me fall back into a corner where the debate is no longer educational. It's no longer like on the, you know, premise of fun, on the premise of, you know, gaining knowledge. It's more of simply like it's abusive because I can't respond to all these arguments because I'm not used to doing this, and this, right? You can always make that argument, and the judges bought that, you know, argument, right? And I won the round. Huh?
You froze for a second.
Oh, okay. So like I'm just saying, like on my first elimination round for one of the tab room, like I guess like tournaments I showed you guys, a way you can like kind of refute like a lot of points, like if they're really abusive, like if they're planking a lot of things, which basically means they're making a whole lot of arguments, and they're like saying, if you can't respond to this, then you lose on this. If you can't respond to this, you lose on this. Then you can say, okay, this is abusive because they're setting like a bunch of rules and a bunch of things that if I refute one, I can't follow the other. And if I like don't refute all of them, then I lose the debate. Like, how is that fair to me as the debater, right? You can make that argument and say that they're being abusive, so you should drop the debater. Like I've done that once and that works sometimes, but always be careful on how you do that. Like if you're absolutely like shoved into a corner where you can't do anything, that's the only way you'll be able to get out of that corner and like win a round. So That's the end of the slideshow. I'm just going to, does anyone have any questions, first of all? Nope, okay. Am I frozen or can everyone hear me? Am I good?
I don't think anybody has a question though. because
Okay,
no
okay,
one's-
that's cool, okay. If we're done there, then I'm just gonna post the homework like right after class. It's just gonna be 2 topics, just cut a half and neck card and then submit it through a Google Doc. I believe I said it like that. If it's not a Google Doc, just make a comment or like announce something in the class, and I can work with the other tutors to see how to like make it so you submit a Google Doc. Is that cool for everyone?
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
do I have to make a new card because I still have the card for the affirmative and negative for the Biden administration.
Okay, yeah. So what you can do is like you can submit, I think you can submit multiple documents, I think. I haven't used Google Classroom in a long time. Does anyone have experience with that?
Yeah, you click add or create and you can add
Yeah,
document.
you
Okay, so like, okay, so just like add the existing document if you guys have cut any cards or like cut any blocks, and then I'll add like an easy topic and a hard topic. Just prep us 1 card each side, like an affirmative card and a negative card, and then submit that through a separate Google Doc, and then I'll check both. I'll give you comments. Hopefully that works and everything's good. Does that sound good? I
Yeah.
will try to like check up on my yeah, so like I just asked my friend like Andrew, do you remember how to install the paperless debate verbatim? I remember your computer blocked it for some reason. So it's like I guess that happens for some people. So like I guess that like hopefully we can figure it out, but if not, just like use Google Docs until you can.
I think Linux and like select forms of Windows runs it, but others don't.
What's up?
Like I updated my Windows and then it ran like
Yeah.
the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I updated it from Windows 10 to 11.
Yeah.
It ran, but also I asked my friend who has Linux. It
Yeah.
worked for him. So
Hmm.
I think
Okay,
you have more than a Windows 10, it will work.
Okay. I'll see if I can figure it out, and then like I only have experience with Mac, but I'll look into the Windows. Shravani, do you have a question?
Yeah, so just for clarification, you're going to post 2 different topics, an easy and a hard one, and we get to choose which one to do.
Yeah, or you can do both if you're like really daring. Yep.
Yeah, and we make a negative and a small negative and small positive card for both, right?
Yeah, just 1 card. Yeah, 1 card for each side.
Okay.
Wait,
Yep.
so can I do like affirmative for the easy one and negative for the hard one, or like opposite way around?
Usually I think you should do like affirmative and negative for like 1 topic. So if it's a topic about
Yeah,
like
yeah, okay.
Yep. Yuvika, do you have a question?
Yeah, for the homework, because we're making a card, are we allowed to do it on paper or does it have to be like submitted online?
It has to be submitted online because usually like if you make a Google Doc, that's usually how you should make a case, cut your cards. It saves a lot of time. Because like if you were to do it on paper, you'd have to go to a website, you'd have to like write down every word, make certain words smaller. Like I don't think anyone's ever like, at least in like I guess the years of the laptop and like at least in recent years, I don't think anyone's cut a card on paper. So it's good practice to start cutting cards on your laptop or like Google Docs or whatnot, because that's the way that it'll usually be presented in front of like your judges. Because if your opponent ever asks for your card, you can't hand them your piece of paper and expect them to like read your handwriting and whatnot. So just like stick to Google Docs and like just do whatever. Like I posted all the Google slides that I made about researching, and that should have like a comprehensive like kind of like instructions on how to cut a card. So just take a look at that and do that if you're not comfortable with using Google Docs or like cutting cards online yet. If that makes sense. Does anyone have any other questions, or we can go ahead and end the class here? Yeah, Tejasvi, do you have a question?
So I already have Microsoft Word on my computer, so can I write the case on that Microsoft Word?
Yep, you can do that. Yep. And then, or I think for now we should stick to Google Docs, because I don't know how to, if you can submit a Word.
I think you can. I don't think you can submit from Word, but you can write it in Word and use all the add-ons. But
Mhm.
then copy it and just repaste it into a Google
Okay.
Docs.
Yeah, so you can do that. Just like cut all your cards in the Microsoft Word and then put that into a Google Doc. That makes it
or
easier.
you could download it. You can download a Word file and save it to your computer and then submit a file.
Yeah, I just didn't know if that was possible. So that was just my, like, because I haven't used Google Classroom in a while. Yeah. So, Sarvesh, do you have a question?
So I sometimes Microsoft Word is randomly bugs out and I can't type on it anymore.
I don't really
I
know
have a
how to fix
question.
that. Yeah, wait, who's asking?
Ishan.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So, can I use Apple Pages?
If you can like put it in a Google Doc, yeah, that's fine. Like I just need to
Or
submit as a
can I
Google
like
Doc.
submit a file?
If you can submit a file, yeah, sure, go ahead. Like you
Oh.
can do that too. If anyone doesn't have any other questions, we can go ahead and end the class here. I'll see you guys next week or this week, Saturday.
Bye.
Yep, bye.
Thank you. See you on Saturday. Have a great day.
Bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye.